Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about AI, one of my favorite topics, because when we talk about digital transformation, AI is one of the keys to transformation. And to me, it's super exciting. And to our clients, it's super exciting as well. So, tonight, we'll talk about AI job losses, most specifically, how to avoid them. We'll talk about artificial intelligence as a future technology. We'll talk about cloud artificial intelligence, generative AI from Microsoft. We'll probably touch upon generative AI over there at Google. We may talk about AI future-proof tech careers. And, and obviously, we'll talk about cloud architect careers because I'm sure somebody's going to reach out to Go Cloud Careers and say, how do I become an architect? And if that pops up, I'm sure we'll do what we can to try and help you as well. So today is a continuation of the previous discussion we had on AI and tech careers. So before we begin the discussion, I'd like to go over a little bit of housekeeping things, and then we're going to have a great discussion. While we have this discussion, we're also going to follow the outage over there at AWS. There's a reason that every day for years now, we've said that multi-cloud is the only solution. Whether it was Microsoft having their outage last week or AWS having an outage today, guess what? If all your stuff's on AWS, 50% on AWS and 50% on Azure, and Azure's down, AWS is up. If AWS is down for some unspecified reason, it doesn't matter because Azure is up. And that's the key when we're dealing with our clients, is truly delivering systems that enable their business. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's going to be the same thing, systems that enable their business. So I want to call your attention to a few things. Next Thursday, we're going to have a webinar for our Elite Cloud Architect program. I want you all to attend. This is going to be the biggest, most life-changing program we've ever done. This is the culmination of hundreds of thousands of dollars of education on many of us, executives that I've known in the industry for decades, business school professors coming in there and teaching business, industry architects that are working everywhere from AWS to big banks that are going to be here, VPs of big tech companies, directors in other tech companies. And it's all about, how do you get hired? How do you rise through the ranks fast to get to the top? How do you increase your salary? And how do you crush those interviews so you're the most desirable person? And we're super excited about this. The webinar is next week. Please sign up for the webinar. The link is in the chat box in the description below, and Tyrone is going to put a link to that webinar. Please sign up. Now, next Tuesday, we're going to have a subnetting webinar. What is the cloud? It's a virtual network in a data center. And if you don't understand the network, you don't understand the cloud. And if you don't understand the data center, you don't have the cloud, understand the cloud. And if you can't understand IP addressing, you can never make it work, because IP addressing is kind of like the foundation of the house. Build a strong foundation. You can live in Florida where I live, get a hurricane, and it doesn't matter. You just stay in your house when the hurricane comes and your house stays strong. Have a weak foundation and have weak structure, house comes falling down and you don't even need a hurricane. So I want to make sure that all you guys have hurricane-proof careers. I live in a hurricane area. I've been through my share of hurricanes, and trust me, it's time for a party when we get a hurricane in my hurricane-proof structure. Everything is covered and backed up, and it's a chance to spend time with my wife. And my cat can't go out there hunting lizards. She stays home and close to me because she doesn't like the sound of the howling wind. So I even get extra cuddles from the cat. It's all kinds of fun. So here's the key. We want to teach you how to do that, and IP addressing is that foundation. So there's that. I'm going to recommend you follow me and Go Cloud Careers on LinkedIn. I write a tremendous number of magazine articles for various publications, everything from Forbes to Information Week to Tech Republic, Tech Radar, you name it, I write for them. And I distribute all that content on LinkedIn, so please do that. But today what we're going to talk about is AI and the impact of your career. Oops, sorry, bear with me. I like to try and open my phone so I can see if you guys are actually asking questions, because I can't actually see it from my computer. But having said that, I've got too many cat videos popping up. Penny the cat and Don't Stop Meowing, they always pop up because my brother and my wife send me cat videos every 30 seconds. And then I torture Chris and Alonzo by sending them cat videos as well. So let us know where you're from. I'm over there in South Florida. I know Alonzo's over there in Katy, Texas. And I know Mark is in that sort of Tampa region. Brian McCullough from Philadelphia. That's my old stomping ground. I grew up there, went to Temple University there. Spent a lot of time in Philadelphia. Kind of loved it. Met my wife there too, so it was a good place for me.
It's a bonus round.
Bonus round is right, and I'm all for big bonuses. So last week we talked about AI, and we're going to talk about some more AI. But before we do, Alonzo, you have anything to say?
Oh yeah, Mike. Yeah, it's always great to be here. And I'm thinking, our friend Chris and colleague, unfortunately, he's under the weather right now, but I know he'll be back in numbers and in strength hopefully tomorrow. But yeah, you get Mike and I, and we're definitely looking forward to sharing what we know about AI. And we talk about the sci-fi version of AI taking over the world, ergo, Terminator or Skynet, or if you will. So bringing it back down to reality, AI is going to, it opened up with a lot of what is happening with how it's meeting the market, how it's disrupting the market, and a lot of what the future holds with AI. So yeah, strap in. We're hoping early on, start thinking about your questions, start thinking about how you want to participate. We're going to be all ears for you, answering your questions. So without further ado, Mike, let's rock and roll.
So great. So we're going to talk about something, and I may actually get one of my generative AI tools out and play with it with you guys, because I always think playing with tech is fun. So why are employers so excited about AI? I want you to think about things from an employer perspective. And we'll talk about, the three inputs of everything, which is land, labor, and capital, right? But let's start looking at things from a business perspective. Businesses have data. Well, hopefully they're collecting data. I know plenty of businesses that run on Excel spreadsheets, including, multi-billion-dollar businesses, but hopefully a business has a fair amount of data. Now, what a business does with this data will determine whether their profitability or not. If an organization can predict exactly what demand will be for a certain product, they know exactly how much of that product and how fast it'll go. They know exactly how much of that product to have on hand. And they don't buy any more than necessary or any less than necessary. If a company buys less than necessary, guess what? And there's customer demand, they can't sell it. If they buy more than necessary, imagine the cool new super exciting Apple $3,500 headsets. I can't wait to order one the second it comes out, because I've tried virtual reality things and they all give me a headache, but not Apple. Apple's going to make it user friendly. If Apple knows they're going to have 1 million of these, they're going to produce 1 million of these. But what if they produce 1 million and they only get 100,000? Well, they won't be selling them for $3,500. They'll be marking them down to $500 and trying to sell them as fast as they can, because collecting something is better than nothing. So businesses want to use AI for forecasting. Think about an airline, for example. An airline buys fuel, right? We all buy fuel. When you buy fuel, you go to the gas station and you buy diesel like me for my truck, or you buy gas for your car, truck, or boat, whatever, I don't know. An airline places a bet on what they think it's going to be worth, and they buy a contract for it in the future. And they lock in. If they lock in at the right time, at one point, Southwest Airlines locked in on cheap fuel. And when fuel went up, Southwest had cheap fuel, so they were able to offer low-cost services. Now, when other airlines were struggling and trying to raise their rates, Southwest was smooth sailing. It was real easy for them at the time. Why? Because they had their fuel and they predicted it ahead of time. But they made the right bet. What if they made the wrong bet? Artificial intelligence can help a company make better predictions. Artificial intelligence can help a company figure out what their supply needs to be, how much of a product they produce, how little they need to produce, the things they need to have on hand. Now let's think of other challenges. Artificial intelligence can help with workers too. I saw a pretty scary study today, and it's an opportunity for you guys. And it was on LinkedIn. It was a poll by Gallup. They found that 52% of employees are not engaged at work, and 17% are actually working against their employers. So I want you to think about it from the employer perspective, and then think about it for the opportunity perspective for all these wonderful people and you. If 52% of the people aren't doing their work in their jobs, either they're lazy, or more importantly, they're just not happy and they want to do something else. So here's an opportunity for them to go find something that's going to make them truly happy, build a career in something they love. Here's a chance maybe for the businesses to give these employees a tool to make them more productive, so that maybe they do more of what they like and less of what they don't like. Again, helping the business and the customer. Or in certain cases, the business, when they can trim staff and have some supercharged workers and maybe do 3 to 5 times their competition, raise the stock price, which raises all the employees in these companies typically get stock. It raises their stock price, and then they're super excited and motivated to work. All because AI did more. Now, I'll tell you one thing. It's one thing to go to work and be paid well. It's even cooler when you get a huge bonus and you can tell your wife, hey, that new car you want, here you go. Let's buy it. I wrote a check for you. That's great. And the better the companies do, the better the people can actually do. So to me, that's why employers are actually so excited about AI. It enables them to do more with less. Or it enables them to do a lot more with the same level of staffing they have. They can take people that are not great at what they're doing, put them in the places where they're great, and use the tech to take over for the things that people are not good at. Or we'll talk about mining vast amounts of information. That's what AI is good at. Take all the encyclopedias in the world, all the publications in the world, everything, and aggregate that data somewhere, learn from it, and then provide decision support. So these are the things that excite me about AI and excite companies. How about you, Alonzo? What excites you about AI?
I think where do I start? I mean, you think about what AI can do, how it can circumvent a lot of the menial tasks. It's the conundrum for me. It's that with the things that you had specified that AI can do, and it's so exciting, but it also puts a lot of people on notice about how they need to evolve the ability to circumvent that evolution in technology. Because I believe that if we have to constantly stay ahead of the curve here, is that if technology goes up, we have to stay ahead of it. But to your point, I think everything that you specified about AI technology is phenomenal. And it's so exciting to see what's going to happen on the horizon.
Yeah, and that's the way I feel about it. And I think there's going to be a lot of careers. Now, again, I'm recommending architecture careers, cloud architecture careers, enterprise architect careers, AI architect careers, but architect careers. I'm not recommending engineering careers. And we're going to talk about that. I want you to be in a career where it's you and your humanity that's there. The reason I like architect careers, and then we're going to do a little demo of what AI can do and what it can't do. And we'll have some fun with this, I'm sure it'll spur some questions. You can't replace an architect with technology, just like you can't replace a doctor with technology. You can't replace a sales rep with technology. In some cases, even the people in technical support are okay, provided they're on the phone with people and they're collecting information. If they're not on the phone with people, and they're not the chatty Cathy, as my wife would call it, someone that likes to talk to a lot of people and bring out the best in others, and when they're sad, make them happy, then that's not going to be in a good place too. But let's think about this. Let's take a doctor, for example. Alonzo, what brings you in today? Make up any problem you want. I don't care.
Oh, I got a throat problem. It's really sore. It hurts to cough, and it hurts to swallow.
Okay, Alonzo, it hurts to cough, hurts to swallow. Do you feel sick at all?
I got a bit of a fever.
You got a bit of a fever. Do you have any cough or a runny nose or stuffiness or anything like that?
Yeah, I got stuffiness and runny nose. It's terrible.
Okay. Alonzo, let me examine you. Okay, I looked in his eyes, I looked in his ears, I looked in his throat, I listened to his heart and lungs, I pushed on his belly a little bit to make sure there was no liver, kidney, or spleen kind of problems going on. Alonzo, it sounds like you got a virus. Let me run a rapid flu test on you. Let me run a rapid COVID test on you. It comes out, Alonzo's got the flu. I give him some Tamiflu and I send him on his way. Now, I had to ask him some questions. And here's why I used that as an example. If it was just Alonzo's throat and only his throat, I'd start thinking about what are the bacterial causes of a throat infection, which is typically beta hemolytic strep group B. You don't need to know that, but I used to practice medicine. And then I would think about which medications can I use to treat beta hemolytic strep group B. And I would say amoxicillin would work, a macrolide like erythromycin would work, and I'd figure out what would be good for Alonzo. And we'd have a solution. And it would be fine. Now, as an architect, Alonzo, could you tell me about your business?
Absolutely, Mike. I think what we're doing is that we have a large financial banking organization focused on stock trading and such. It's very important that our multi and global clientele of more than 20 million customers are satisfied, making sure that their security of who they are, where they are, and how much of their assets are worth are secured in a really tight environment. We want to know that if they're focused on any type of stock trading, that they're able to do so instantaneously without any lag, because with these type of transactions, especially in this turbulent market, any lag in that could cost them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So it's important that we're able to reduce latency, make sure that we have we're always highly available. We're able to reach our customers at any point in time. So these are a lot of the critical pieces that we have about our architecture.
Okay, excellent. And Alonzo, how much does downtime cost you per minute?
We're looking at about per minute, about $5 million per
About
minute.
$5 million a minute. So if you were in a single cloud and they had a 60-minute outage, you're basically talking about $300 million lost per hour.
Yes, we will.
Okay. So if we can provide a solution to you for 100 million, to save you that 300 million, you'd probably be pretty interested on the availability side.
Very much so.
They also talked about latency. And for your internal trading application, how much is 1 millisecond of latency worth for you per year in terms of competitive advantage?
Millisecond, we're looking at between 50 to 100 million per year.
Okay, so let's say each millisecond is $75 million. You know, if we took you to the public cloud for your trading application, we're typically dealing with a 3 millisecond delay, and that's going to cost you about $200 million. What if we were to do you have a private cloud right now like Nutanix or OpenStack?
Yes, we do. We have Nutanix.
Okay, you have a Nutanix cloud. How's that working out for you so far?
So far, but I think that we need to expand our opportunities to ensure that we don't have any downtime, as well as increasing our clientele and make sure our needs are met. Their needs are met there.
Okay, so I would typically agree. You know, a bank. I'm assuming you have 2 data centers at least, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, but if we were to keep your Nutanix data center as is and really maybe boost that to make it better and keep all your low latency things there and your non-latency sensitive things like your web apps, if we could put that in, say, in AWS and Azure and offload that from your data center, would enable you to have your super high performance things in your data center and your normal things in the cloud. Would you be interested in that? Should it work out financially for you if we can develop the right performance?
I would, Mike. I'd like to learn more about you and your team and what you can do.
And obviously, security is of the essence. What I'm going to do is I'm going to consult with all the best security providers in the world. I'm going to consult Checkpoint. They're an Israeli company. They're known to be great for security. I'm also going to consult Palo Alto and Fortinet and see what we can figure out for your needs. I'll meet with them and I'll come back to you. So that cannot be done by AI. This is architect work. Almost all engineering can be done by AI. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you why software engineers need to be terrified. Cloud engineers need to be terrified, and why they need to do one of 2 things. If they love engineering, stay in engineering, but develop the business skills, communication skills, and the leadership skills so you're more human and not replaceable by AI. At the same time, if you move towards architectures where you're designing, presenting, and selling solutions, what I just did with Alonzo, you can't do with tech no matter how hard you want to try, because the tech can't do it. So let's let me show you a few things that the tech can do easily, which is why I want you to know this so you know how to prepare. I want you to actually know what is your actual strength. Taron, are you able to Do you see my ChatGPT screen there? And this is just one of the many AI models that are out there. Tyrone, if you can share that. Yeah, Tyrone, can you share my screen share? Okay. So I want to show you what it can do and what it can't do, because this will help guide you in your career. Write a Terraform script. This is just beta technology, and there's probably a good $1 trillion being dumped into this technology right now. Let's just do 1,000 virtual machines. I'm using beta software right now. Let's see what it does. Network error. You know what? AWS is down, and I wonder if this is hosted on AWS.
Let's give it a shot.
Because there's a lot of stuff maybe down right now. It even tells you it's going to be expensive, but 1,000 virtual machines of this size is nothing for a business. Now notice it actually told you the right instance type. You didn't even have to think about it. You didn't have to go to the AWS webpage. It told you which one has the right number of cores in DRAM. It actually set up everything, and it's even telling you exactly what you need to replace. Done completely for you, basically almost instantly. So it can do that. For example, if you wanted to write a Python script, all right, random numbers, I don't care. Let's do something a little different on the tech side while we're at it, just to play with it, and then you'll see why I'm recommending customer-facing careers versus these kinds of careers. Write a Bash script. Many people would do this as a bootstrap script on the cloud to install Apache web server on Ubuntu Linux. It wouldn't matter whether it's Amazon Linux, Ubuntu Linux, Red Hat, it knows what to do. So as you can see, in this particular environment, all that hands-on techie work we just did, and we didn't need to have any knowledge of what we were doing whatsoever. That's why I want you to steer clear of hands-on only tech jobs. But the architect job, which is basically getting the customer requirements from Alonzo, which I just demonstrated to you, and then going back and then talking to Checkpoint, Palo Alto, Cisco, and Fortinet from the security vendors, to then talk to AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle to figure out what each provider has to offer and what rates we can help negotiate, to then go back to my team to find the right AI people to work with, the right big data people to work with, the right security people to work with, the right, I don't care, DevOps engineers that are going to go build it by using one of these tools. One DevOps engineer will do 10 DevOps engineers' jobs. Instead, they'll be editing transcripts that are generated by the tech as opposed to writing it and doing all the hard work themselves. That's the architect's job. Then after they coordinate it and manage all the stakeholders, they got to write it up, respond to the RFI, RFP, RFQ. They then have to present it back to the customer, sell it to the customer, and negotiate it to the customer. See, what makes an architect job so special is it's not a hands-on tech job at all. We're not even allowed to touch the tech. It's a design, present, and sell job. Can't replace that with technology. Now I see people talking about healthcare, right? Okay. If I were to go to ChatGPT and ask it, and in fact, I'll do this, and I want to show you why there's a difference between a knowledge worker and a knowledge worker career versus the hands-on career. They're not the same. And I'll go back to my medical thing. So let's say a patient has a certain kind of a rash. In medicine, we have what's called the differential diagnosis. And actually, I'm going to use a sore throat because Alonzo said he had a sore throat. What are the differential diagnosis for a sore throat? Now, the differential diagnosis is all the possibilities. Viral, okay. Come on, ChatGPT. I know that bacterial, typically strep. Could be the tonsillitis. It could be gastroesophageal reflux disease or acid coming in. It could be allergies. Yes, it could be a pollutant. It could be mono. Epiglottitis, which is basically swelling of the epiglottis, which is kind of a big problem. It could be an abscess. It could be laryngitis, which is the voice box. It could be cancer. We're going to keep going. There's going to be more possibilities that this sore throat can be. You'll see it in many other conditions as well. Okay, so how do I go from determining whether it's cancer or acid reflux or a virus or bacteria? It's in the questions that I ask. That's why you literally cannot, and I'm not joking, you can't replace a doctor with technology. Now, could the doctor use this technology for decision support? Yeah. Could a cloud architect use this technology for decision support? Let's see exactly how helpful this can actually be used properly. So let's say you're an architect and you have to migrate 500 virtual machines to the AWS cloud or the Azure cloud. I don't care. It's irrelevant. They're all the same, network and data center. So there's a Who song, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. But let's say I want to find a virtual machine and I need to know what's going to have 64 cores and a terabyte of RAM. Please provide an AWS EC2 instance with 64 CPU cores and 1 TB DRAM. And you may not find an exact match, and that's kind of the problem. So when we do these things, we start looking at what comes close. Maybe we use systems with 96 cores and 3/4 of a terabyte of RAM, and we use just less of them. And while we're at it, they even give you a script on how to launch it, so you don't even know how to do it. Have to know how to launch it. So I hope you can see how good of a resource this is to find this. To find information, it's exceptional. To help you respond to your RFPs, it's going to help you create stock content. So these kind of things in my mind are exciting, but they don't replace human judgment.
No.
When I look at Alonzo's throat, if it's beefy red, like raw meat, chances are it's beta hemolytic strep, group B. By comparison, if his tonsils are enlarged, I'm going to think it's tonsillitis, but I'm still going to further warrant it. And if he's complaining of aches and pains all over his body, it's going to make me think that it's viral, because a bacterial infection is typically localized and a virus is all over. That's why when you get the flu, your feet hurt, your knees hurt, your back hurt, your throat hurts, your head hurts, everything hurts. But see, if I didn't go to school for 7 years to learn, all those signs, symptoms, and how to diagnose, treat, I wouldn't be able to do it. Same thing for the architect here. The architect is the synthesis of how all the technology works, not how to configure it, how all the technology works. And how do we piece these things together? And for those of you like Rashad, they're asking architect questions, we can definitely help you. We've taken lots of network engineers and retrained them to be architects. And we know exactly how to do it. And we can tell you more about that later because we'll have some questions. In fact, Joe Millen was an example. You can see a video of him on our website. He was a multi-CCIE. He came to us. We got him trained up and hired by AWS as a senior solution architect almost overnight. But that's the difference, is architecture is all about designing, presenting, and selling, and engineering is all about building. You guys can do great with that. So Alonzo, I want you to react to that. I want you to talk about being a knowledge worker. You worked in marketing for a while.
Yes,
you
I
worked
did.
in project management.
Yep.
Now you got methodologies that you file, but how much of it is human along the way?
All of it is pretty much human, because when you think about, let's look at it from the marketing standpoint or the creative standpoint, if you will. So we're interacting with the client, much like an architect would as well. You're looking at, well, what are you trying to do? What's your campaign? What's your product? Where's your product being launched? Is it already a new product or an old product? Where is it in the product life cycle, if you will? Are you trying to reinvigorate it again, or are you trying to, is it a limited edition? Who is your market share? Are you launching it in different countries, different counties? Is there a certain type of product that you're breaking it down throughout the year? Is this going to be a seasonal product, or is it going to be an all-year product? Is it a summer product? What are the colors that are associated with it? Because a lot of people, they don't understand that color variations such as red equals hot, danger, spicy, love, or any of the associated colors represent a certain feeling or hue visually or emotionally to consumers. So this is just like architecture, a small list of what we ask that we need to communicate as a actual human to that specific stakeholder or leader, because you can't have a cookie cutter statement about what their product is. Is it for children? Is it not for children? If so, why? We need to know from an emotional standpoint how this product is supposed to make people feel. And art and AI can't come up with a solution for that. There's no ones and zeros. There's no machine learning about that, because every product, just like every organization, is different. Just like every architecture is different. Just like every architecture within a financial industry is going to never be exactly the same. So that's why those similarities equate to the human experience taking over and being far more critical than automated AI expectations.
Okay, so let's talk about that in the implementation for marketing professionals. Alonzo's a marketing executive. That process that he's talking about of finding out what the customer wants, what's the customer's vision, what's their goal, what are they being known for, how do they want to communicate and collaborate with their clients, the psychology of color, the psychology of connecting with the audience and the right audience. That's specialty human stuff. That's very different than a digital marketing person that makes social media posts and just makes social media posts and doesn't ask these questions. That can easily be done. If you want, I'll create a LinkedIn post with ChatGPT right now. It won't be, I won't use it. I won't be writing LinkedIn posts when I make mine because I like to connect with my audience in a humanity style. But boy, can I write a blog article fast. I wouldn't publish a blog article written by ChatGPT because all mine is about specialty. But you guys want to see it? I'll show you to just prove a point. And I want to show you the difference behind something that an Alonzo would make. And this is really the secret to staying employed in all these AI careers. Let's go back here. What do we want to say on our LinkedIn post? What do we want it to be about? Let's do this.
Yeah. Come up with something great, Mike.
Write a LinkedIn. Let's do this. We just had an outage at AWS. Write a LinkedIn post about why multi-cloud is necessary for high availability. This is actually pretty good. There you go. And it even generated my hashtags for me.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff it can do. So what does this mean for marketing executives now? Well, you got a marketing executive like Alonzo that knows how to connect with people. He might, let's assume he's running a marketing division. He's a chief marketing officer. He's got the marketing execs that are creating the vision, interacting with the clients, doing all that stuff, finding what the goals of the company are. They're still employed. Now you got the person that's making the LinkedIn post. That LinkedIn post was pretty darn good. I wouldn't post it. I'd spend another 20 minutes if I was going to use that and truly humanize it. But now in 20 minutes, you've got a perfectly made humanized post that's got good data instead of the hour that it might take to make the perfect LinkedIn post. I'm not talking an average post. I'm talking about exceptional. How about a tweet? We could then use generative AI to take that post that we just created and ask it to create a post for Twitter, create a post for Instagram, create something for this platform and this platform, and it'll even know how to vary them based on platforms, words, and characters. So did Alonzo's marketing department just become more effective if he's running it? Can he now have 4 or 5 times the product set and customers with less people in his business? He can. So if you're on your marketing company, how excited would you be with this, Alonzo?
I would be relatively excited at first, but you know what? I think about what we add and how it could be especially curated for us, but the overall building blocks of it is impressive.
But you run a whole marketing department. You're responsible for all profit and all losses. You still need your customer-facing people, right?
Absolutely, it will be critical. It's just like automation. You got an awesome vehicle. Awesome. Imagine your best luxury vehicle that you could ever produce, but it means nothing if you don't have the human element to drive it and experience the luxury, experience the overall feel of the car, how it runs, and everything else, and how it's supposed to make you feel. Other than that, it's just a very large paperweight.
Exactly. And that's the key. So now you got the leadership saying, wow, I can do more customers in the same amount of time with the same number of resources. Or if I'm losing money as a business, I can remove some resources, become profitable, and still offer the same services.
Yeah.
If there's a worker shortage, like where I live,
Yeah.
Where I live in Florida, it's a fairly affluent neighborhood. They couldn't find anybody to remove the trash. Guess what? We no longer have trash people. There's one person that drives a truck, and the truck has some special things and automatically
Yep.
dumps the trash, and there's no trash
Yep.
people. Problem solved. Automation technology. Now, I would prefer that there were people that actually had that job, that they got paid well and could feed their family. That would make me happier.
Yeah.
But no one was willing to do the job, so the company found the solution. Business will always find a solution. If you're an architect, your job is to help them.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you think about with AI providing that, you not only would that be a digital transformation, it would also be a human transformation as well. You think about the interaction that you have with your client, the interaction of and change management that they would have to enact to implement that extra form, that increased fortification, that new architecture, and what it would take to drive it internally and externally. That requires something that you can't automate, that has to help usher in a new feeling, a new way of doing things within that culture. And that requires a human experience, because I think who would you rather talk to at the end of the day when you have a problem with your banking institution? You want to talk, you want to press a bunch of buttons, press 2 for this, press 3 for that. And they want to, you say, well, they want you to verbalize what you want. It never comes out the way you want. And they ended up taking you right back to the home dialing page. You get so frustrated, you slam it down. Or even worse, you're waiting and waiting and waiting versus, and that's only for the automated piece, versus talking to someone. You have a specific problem, you need specific answers, and that just cookie cutter explanation about why why you can't access any of your information will be better suited towards people who empathize with you, know how to work their way around the system. Maybe the system is shut down, maybe this person or the automation has not caught up with what their new features are, and you need someone who can circumvent and provide that experience for you. Again, it's a human experience, and AI is not going to be the end all to be all.
No, it is not. But, it's interesting. So I had to go to Wellington, Florida a couple days ago, and I had to be there really early at like 7 a.m. in the morning. And I didn't have the chance to properly prepare my nice breakfast, my nice eggs and turkey bacon and blueberries and vegetable juice the way I would normally like it. And I actually went through a drive-through. Now, I don't eat fast food. Last time I've eaten fast food was probably 20 years ago. But I went through a drive-through figuring you can't get bad coffee. They're not going to kill me with coffee. How bad could it possibly be? And when I went through the drive-through, what I heard was whack, 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 whack. It was like an episode of Snoopy where you couldn't hear anything or understand someone. I literally couldn't understand what the person again. And I asked again, and I got whack, 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 whack. I finally walked in the restaurant and got my cup of coffee because I couldn't understand. Now, today I just found out that many restaurants are struggling with that issue, struggling to find workers, and now they have AI chatbots actually taking your orders. And, well, it won't sound like wah, 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 wah. It will say, what would you like today? It's still solving a problem. So I want to keep that in your mind. Businesses are always going to look for a solution, but it's got to be the right solution. We'll get to questions in about 20 minutes or so. So if you guys have questions, please start popping them in the chat box.
Please.
We really want to help you in your careers. So there are kind of some of the things that I want you to think about. What can you do now? Here's my recommendation. Learn AI. Learn what it can do, learns its strengths, learns its weaknesses. Mess around with Google Bard. Mess around with ChatGPT. Mess around with the KWS stuff. I think you'll find that ChatGPT by far is the most advanced model out there. Even things that use ChatGPT, I haven't found to work the same way. But, play with them. Learn how to use the prompt. Learn how to ask the right questions. It's going to help you in your career. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't recommend careers in prompt engineering. I'm starting to see people recommend this. I strongly don't recommend this for the following reason. I remember when search engines first came out. And guess what? They actually had jobs for people that used search engines. Now, is anybody getting paid to Google now? No, everybody knows how to Google. It's really kind of funny. I was at my friend's house and his 8-year-old daughter didn't know something. I said, research it. And she says, hold on. She took out her little iPhone at 8 years old. She Googled it and she gave me an answer that was impressive. AI is going to become so ubiquitous that I truly believe everybody will know how to use it in a year or two. And when that occurs, the jobs of prompt engineers die.
Yeah.
But it's not that's a temporary job. What's not a job is people that know how to use AI. Well, I think most software engineering careers aren't going to be there. One software engineer with AI, imagine what they could do. They could use generative AI. Let's say you wanted to write code on AWS. They've got a code whisperer that works with their proprietary stuff and uses generative AI right then and there. Imagine a software developer working on the AWS cloud that can either write it with ChatGPT or they can use the generative AI code whisperer from AWS or something else. They write the code instantly and then they tune it. So instead of spending 8 hours writing code, they spend 3 minutes asking the right question and 45 minutes tuning it. Now they can do eight other people's jobs because they have another 7 free hours. Or better yet, that person that's now writing the code, who now doesn't have to write the code, develops some business acumen skills, some leadership skills, and some communication skills. And now they can go out there with the architects, talk to the customers. And while the architect can get business requirements and some technical requirements, you can bring that software engineer with you that now has these human skills, and they can ask all the crazy technical questions that need to get asked. They're going to love doing it. They're going to get all the information. And then the architect itself doesn't have to translate between the business people and the techies. They're already enabled and they have more free time to do it. Now imagine that. Now I go to close a sale and it's now me, the cloud architect, enterprise architect, network architect. I don't know. I've been a while. I don't care. I'm happy to do anyone. It's just a matter of which day. And now I'm there with the account executive. Now I bring a sales engineer with me when it gets really techy. And now it's a new software solution. I bring a software developer that really only spends 10% of their time developing and the rest of their time talking to customers. Imagine the deep software questions that person's going to ask to the appropriate people, not the executives, but to the techies and the customer. Now, they're going to have a very special job. So, that's the key. What you can do now is learn AI, get good at AI, learn what it can do for you, learn what it can do for your company. By the way, if you've ever worked for a company and you found a way to make them more profitable, you're going to get promoted. You might get a $100,000 stock grant. Believe me, I know all about helping your company and getting huge stock grants. You can do that. You'll get promoted. You'll build a name for yourselves. You may even find yourself leading a division if you did it.
Yeah.
Maybe AI helped you do it.
You know what? I'm also thinking, Mike, because everyone knows that, and if you haven't, I originally came from that marketing creative background and doing a little research with OpenAI, which is the progenitor of ChatGPT. They also have this thing called DALL-E as, a derivative off of Salvador Dali, a very famous painter. And it's creating, you write out a definition of what this image is supposed to look like, and it will generate it for you. So, and I've seen this also with a app called Lensa. It's a photo editor app, and I tried it on my wife's image, and she loved them. And it gave you all these different variations of what this image could look like, with from a cubist, a modernist, a Renaissance era, a futuristic version of this exact image. So not only are engineers, it's effectively putting engineering jobs on notice, but it's also getting into that marketing realm and that creative realm at all as well. So you're never going to be able to fully replace graphic designers,
No.
creative, or anything else. But the things that it can do really blur the lines between how much folks in these specific arenas are going to have to adapt to stay ahead of this disruptive curve. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's funny. I tried using Dali. I wanted to draw some images with it. And then I said, Alonzo, could you please draw this for me? Because I saw the Dali thing and I said, it doesn't speak to me. I don't feel it in my heart. But now you got someone that worked as a graphics designer like Alonzo did when he was younger. And he uses these tools. And now he knows to talk about color hues and this response and this response. He's going to get a very different answer. So
it's yeah. When we looked at the specificity about it, and it speaks a lot to the more you talk to your customer from a cloud architect perspective, the more accurate of that expectation your client is going to have, and it says a lot here. However, it will never get close enough than being able to build relationships. The more you build a relationship with a client, the more you build a relationship with your senior manager who is in charge of excess resources that you need to be successful for each project. The more you know, the more it opens up these walls, these barriers. You're able to unlock and get accessibility that no AI could ever do. And it's just important that we tell our clients, building relationships, building those soft skills, emotional intelligence, CXO relevancy, and so forth is so key to opening up your success. No tech will be able to fully articulate that, as opposed to building your emotional intelligence and that component side of being successful.
And let's talk about the evolution of these architect careers, the evolution of technologies, and why now is the exact perfect time for AI.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So when I started in tech, the first cloud I worked on was in 1996. It was Frame Relay, followed by ATM in 1998, and a BGP cloud specified in RFC 2547 around 2000, and then the VPLS cloud around 2001. So I've been in the cloud now for, well, over 25 years, but that's neither here nor there. But when I started, the motto of one of the main routing companies in the world was, we suck less, meaning they were less bad than their competition. And what that meant is that their systems only had outages all the time as opposed to every single day. And when I started in tech and when I did my CCIE back when it was a miserable 2-day exam before Cisco made it a lot easier, not that it's ever easy, but in those days it was kind of miserable. When I started, if you understood the tech, even if you didn't shower, it didn't matter, because you were so valuable that if you didn't shave, shower, cut your hair, and you walked in looking scary as can be, the company still needed you. If you could make it work, because in those days, routers might have had a 20 megahertz CPU and 16 megabytes of RAM and maybe 16 megabytes of flash to store your operating system. Now, those were those funny days, and they were fun, let me tell you. And the first architects, and I made a video on this, but there's a reason I'm tying it back. We were called design engineers. When I got my first job as an architect, which I thought was an architect, I'm in routers all day long looking at BGP peering sessions and figure out what's in the rib versus the fib gun, what's going on here. That was my first architect job. That then turned into my next big job, which was a technical architect job. And what did I do there? I went and talked tech to people. So I'd get requirements from the CIO, and I'd talk to the techies, and I designed stuff. Guess what? Those jobs are far and few in between. That job turned into the solution architect job, which is a job where you don't touch the technology ever. And you're busy asking your clients about their business goals, their business pain points, and business challenges. And what's a solution architect? When I was a solution architect working at Cisco, I only designed Cisco stuff. That's a solution architect. Here I got this PIX firewall or ASA firewall or whatever, Meraki firewall, I don't care. I got these Cisco UCS servers over here. I got these Cisco wireless things over here. I got this Cisco super fast switch. I got this Cisco super fast router. I got Cisco unified communication servers. And that's what a solution architect did. They designed stuff on a single product. Now, in those days, the architect was focused on business, and these were half business executives, half technology professionals who never touched the tech. But here's the thing, that was one vendor. It was great. Here, just try all my stuff. But how many businesses can run exclusively on one company? So you're only going to use Cisco? I love Cisco. I spent a decade there. I was a lead enterprise architect, senior manager there. I loved it. But I might need 2 firewalls because they work differently and they use different algorithms. I can't use Cisco to back up Cisco, but I could use Palo Alto in Cisco or Checkpoint in Cisco or Fortinet in Cisco. Now I'm out of the solution architect world. I'm either in that enterprise architect world or that cloud architect world. When it comes to clouds, who would actually stick all their eggs in one basket? In today's world, I think you'd be crazy to if you're a business. When that cloud provider goes down, you're done. Now, Azure had an outage last week. AWS had an outage tonight. Starting to sound like some security threats are out there hitting the cloud providers. Might not be. They might both have just networking problems. I haven't heard what Azure said it was yet. AWS hasn't even acknowledged their problem, even though their systems are down. And we're getting emails from all of our systems. AWS is down, AWS is down, AWS is down. AWS didn't even acknowledge the outage, although they did talk about the graded service. But people's websites and apps and Burger King's down and Delta's down and I think McDonald's is down and Zapier's down. Everybody's down.
You think about what's the combined cost of money due to these outages and what's going to be the damage for these individual companies. You think about how immense this is going to cost them and what will be the mitigation for this outage.
Yeah, and it's that because all these businesses are losing money per second.
Yeah.
Now, the good news, most businesses at this point are using multi-cloud. 98% of organizations are doing so, but there's still people that are trying to say, I can do it all, I can do it all. In fact, I spoke to a cloud company that would resell AWS services, and they told me I was crazy for wanting multi-cloud. I said, okay, well, every time your systems are down and your client systems are down, now you know why. And since we had that discussion, their clients have been down and down and down and down again, and they still think a single cloud provider can do it. I promise you those customers will be going somewhere else to run their businesses. But, that's the key. So the cloud architect came, and what's the cloud architect? Now, I want you to think about this and understand it from a logical perspective. Now you got to know all of AWS services, all of Azure services, all of Nutanix services, all of Oracle services, all of OpenStack services, and all of Google services. Do you think that's possible? No. But here's the great news, everybody. A virtual machine is a virtual machine on all clouds. Doesn't matter if it's called Azure Virtual Machine, AWS EC2, Oracle Virtual Machine, Azure Virtual Machine. Object storage is object storage, whether you get it from Dell EMC and stick it in your data center, or you call it AWS S3, or you call it Microsoft Blob, who makes these names, or you call it Google Cloud Storage. It's the same thing. So for we architects, we need to understand the tech and how it works, and then we design on everything. But as you can see, now we've got to know 5 clouds, all the security vendors, all the networking vendors, and even if you were a vampire and lived 1,000 years, you could learn every product from everybody and all that depth. So now we have to become more business-oriented, more leadership-oriented, and we have to manage teams of people to do it, and there's much more negotiation, so we get more and more and more business. So as you move up the business side of the world, and you move up to the architecture side of the world, it's more and more business. Now, what changed? Why is it that the architects of today are focusing on digital transformation and the architects yesterday were focused on, can I make this thing work? The tech's better. I'm not joking. If any of you guys are here and you remember those days, the early days of the internet, where a 56K lease line between New York and Delhi, India, was $5,000 a month, comment in the chat box if you guys were there and you experienced it with me. Comment if you remember EIGRP stuck in active states because the CPU and the router couldn't handle the routing conversion. Comment if you had a 300 bit per second modem connecting to the internet like I did. Comment if you had a computer that had 64K of DRAM and how good you had to be able to write code, or somebody would have to do that. Pop it in there. I know lots of you guys were there with me. These were fun times. These were exciting times. Comment if you had a cassette recorder that you actually used to back up your data over an audio port. I know you remember these days, Alonzo.
I won't date myself, but I may have a little bit of knowledge about that.
And comment if you told your parents that the internet was going to change the world and they laughed at you and told you it was a fad.
They couldn't even understand the concepts. If anyone remembers those old AI AOL days and hearing that awful sound once you got online, you think about how far we've come from that, and how services have tremendously changed, but yet still stayed the same.
It's all the same. In fact, I remember when Second Life came out there, and it was this virtual world that people were going to hang out in, and all the Cisco people were trying to, like, Mike, you got to get on this thing. And I said, I left my house. There's beautiful palm trees everywhere. There's birds outside. And if I go to the beach, the water's green and clear. Why would I waste my time in a virtual world? 10 years later, Mark Zuckerberg's trying to create the metaverse, or 15 years later, and dumped a ton of money, and everybody's saying, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. I think Web 3.0 just disappeared inside of 6 months. In fact, the investors basically fled Facebook stock until they said, we're going to worry about profitability instead of the metaverse, and poof, now all of a sudden it's worth 30-40% more overnight. So, kind of keep that. So that's what's happening. So as the tech got better, it's not about how do we make the tech work. It's about what tech serves the business right. We still need people to make the tech work, don't get me wrong. But we don't need anywhere near as many of them as we used to be. And the example is, I worked at a bank, and then we'll get to some questions. Please ask some if you've got some. I love answering your questions, helping you build your career. And in this bank, we had a data center. I'll make it clear how big this data center was. It took up 3 floors of the data center. The building itself was about 1/10 of a mile wide. It was a huge building, multi-tenant building, but we were a big market maker, so we were there. So I bet you each data center was 100,000 square feet. And we had 3 of them in one building. Floor to ceiling with servers. You walked in there and it had so much air conditioning, you had to wear a winter coat. It sounded like jet engines were there. Everywhere you looked, you had these big, giant Sun Microsystems, refrigerator-looking scary things. You had these fiber channel cards going into your systems. You had more switches, more routers and servers, thousands of them. And this business had the best chief technology officer I ever met. He never worked in tech in his entire life. He got promoted to CTO. He was one of the elite business executives that were there, and he built an advisory team of great tech people. I used to advise him. On the network side, he had somebody else from the application side, and he listened to us. But he focused on the business instead of worrying about the tech. He was the best CTO I've ever seen. And I remember he gave a presentation to the entire IT department, which was 300 people, to deal with all these servers. We manage 42,000 servers sitting in this room. We manage this, and we have 3.2 terabytes of data. I just want you to think about that. 300,000 square feet full of servers from floor to ceiling. Hundreds of people working on it for 3.2 terabytes of data. In my bedroom, I've got a 96 terabyte RAID array, and it's 80% filled with video content from Go Cloud Careers. Just think about that. And we're in these kind of situations. So let's get to some questions. You guys have some questions?
Yeah, let's hear the questions. I know you guys got some. From Nigel. Hi, from Dominica. Mike, is it worth it to get into AI itself, or will these positions be taken over by AI?
Nigel, good questions. It depends what you want to do. I wouldn't just focus on any technology ever. I think it's a complete and total waste. What can the technology do for the business? Now, a data scientist, which I'm not necessarily recommending that career, but a data scientist is a person that knows how to take data, aggregate data, use artificial intelligence, create the necessary technology to extract the data to make informed business decisions and advise the executive team. That's a position of value. Now, not the person that focuses on AI. Focusing on AI is like becoming an expert in a hammer, on a hammer. It's just a hammer. Becoming an expert on what the AI can do is another story. Look, right now, it's a Python script to code or R programming for a lot of these AI things. But AI can actually code the AI, and these algorithms actually learn. So I predict a time 5 years from now, maybe 7 years from now, the AI is doing all of the coding itself. It's configuring itself. It's even healing itself under most circumstances, except when it gets really bad and we need to bring in the strategic people to bring it in. So I think AI is a great career, but it's more on the applicable applications of AI. If you're an enterprise architect, AI is one of your tools, just one. Decision support systems could be another one. Unified communications could be another one, connecting people. Supply chain applications are one of your tools. So I'd say I'd rather see you take a holistic big picture view of all of it and what you can do for the business. Because at the end of the day, if you can make a business 30% more profitable, and you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars a year, which is nothing for a big business, if you want an $800,000 salary, it's nothing for you to get it if you can make the business earn 10 million more. But if you become a specialist on any tech, I promise you there's going to be thousands and millions of specialists on that same tech throughout the world. And then you'll have a common skill set. I want you to be uncommon among others. I want you to have skills that no one has. Because in economics, we have something called the supply and demand curve, and there's that intersection point. The greater the supply at a given demand, the lower the value or the price. The greater the demand and the lower supply, the greater the price. There's an extraordinary demand in big tech and companies for people that know what to do with the technology to improve their business performance. There's a surplus of people that can code the tech at this point. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's what I would recommend if I was you.
From Augustine, is technical support specialist career AI proof?
A little of both. Now, if you are in support, there's a human side of that. So if Alonzo, pretend to be cranky and call me real quick. My computer's working.
Mike.
Yeah, it's hard.
I can't do it. Mike, my system is down. I need you to fix it. I'm not happy about it. I've got deadlines. Things are not working correctly. Can you provide a solution?
Alonzo, I definitely want to help you. I understand you've got work to do, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you. Could you tell me when it started?
It started first thing this morning. Things started lagging. Everything froze. Next thing I know, I got a blue screen. I can't log in. It's not giving me anything that I need to access my systems, and I need solutions quickly.
Okay. Before this happened, did you do any updates last night, perchance?
Actually, yes, I did. I did it from our usual website. I saw some activity that I wasn't sure about, but I went on ahead and downloaded the software anyway because it looked familiar to me because I was in a rush, didn't pay attention. And I think that might have been a solution. It might have been the wrong software that I needed for my website. For my laptop.
Okay, can we try this together? Could you let me remote access into your computer? I'd like to look at the system's logs. Maybe we try uninstalling that software. And if that fixes it, great. And if not, we'll dig deeper.
Sounds good.
Okay, I remote into his computer. I see something. I uninstall it. We install a new application. Alonzo, your system's fixed. Are you happy now?
I am happy. And you gave me good customer service. So thank you so much.
Now, if Alonzo called me cranky and I said, now do that same thing again.
Mike, my system's down. I'm sick and tired of this system. I'm sick of your product. Help me out here because it's your product. Help me.
All right, Alonzo. Sorry you're sick of the product. Did you do anything? Did you do any updates recently?
Yes, I did an update last night, and that's probably the reason why. Because of your software doesn't work, your product doesn't work. I'm not happy about it, so I expect you to provide a solution for me.
Okay. So did you test the update before to see if it worked on your computer with all the systems that you have and all the applications which you have are unique?
No, I didn't because I never had a problem with it before. Now all of a sudden I have a problem with your product. So I expect you to provide a solution about your product on your laptop.
Alonzo, don't be a bozo here. You have software from 50 different companies on your computer, and all of that can interact with everything else. So remove that thing, and if it doesn't work, call me back. Now,
This is
Alonzo, you happy?
No, I'm not, and I'm going to talk to my other executives about breaking off relationships with you and paying and blowing it, you just removing this relationship period. So yeah, they lost business.
Okay, exactly. So that's the key. If you're in support and you're delivering exceptional customer service, and you've got a lot of empathy and emotional intelligence and calmness, and your customers are satisfied, you're safe. But if you're like a lot of the people we call and they say it's plugged in as a paper in it, and there's no customer service and there's apathy, yeah, AI is going to take over. So the key is celebrate your humanity. Work on the things that make you special. And every person has so many things that are special. Hone in on those things, and then you don't have to be worried about replaced by technology. Great question.
From Rashad, I'm currently a senior cloud engineer and I use AI often. Now I want to transition into the cloud architect side now because the realm really interests me the most. I have network experience, data center architecture experience with converged architecture, and cloud CI/CD experience, but want to move to an architect role. Is there training for people with experience like me?
Okay, Rashad, we have a program and we can easily train you.
Yeah.
I'd like you to come to the webinar on Thursday on how to become the ultimate cloud architect. The key is right now, you have the networking experience, great, the data experience, and all these other things. But you have hands-on building experience, which is completely different than designing experience. I've taken probably thousands at this point of previous engineers, cloud engineers, and retrained them to be architects. So the key for you is realizing we don't have anything to do with CI/CD at all. But we do a lot of networking. We're designing WAN networkings, for example, connecting to the cloud. We're designing the IP addressing scheme. So, the networking piece that you have is good. But now we need to go from hands-on building to system design on the networking side. Instead of working with the VMware server to set up a virtual machine, for example, now you need to design all the virtual machines and what they can actually do. Completely different thing. And we have that. So what you're going to need to learn, and I promise you it'll be the best job if you ever do it, you're going to need to develop something called executive presence, which is the ability to communicate with executives. You're going to have to learn leadership skills because you're going to be leading large teams. You're going to be selling things, so you're going to need to learn sales. You're going to be giving presentations probably every day, so you're going to learn how to present. You're going to learn how to entertain clients because we do a lot of client entertaining. There's lots of dinners, lots of really nice drinking scotch and things like that, lots of golfing and things which are part of the job. 1 year as an architect, I spent close to $200,000 on lunches and dinners. I mean, I didn't touch the technology because architects don't, but we spend a lot of time and use our corporate credit cards pretty heavily entertaining clients. And that's really the key to transition from the hands-on role. As an engineer, it's how do I configure BGP on this router? As an architect, is how do I design the BGP to appear with whatever number of people I have to do? How do I design the systems to be more resilient? How do I design all this stuff? So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. For example, if a network engineer would know why you could never use a single cloud. They would know that a single cloud has a single network. And if the network gets hacked, they can take down the entire cloud with a BGP outage, for example. And you if you've done networking, you're going to be in good shape because you're going to be there and you're going to understand that the network is the foundation to everything. And I've worked with a lot of network engineers and gotten them a lot of great jobs as architects. It just takes learning something new. And it's a new set of skills. Alonzo, you've watched me turn a lot of engineers into architects.
Yeah.
You want to describe your experience watching it?
It was transformational. I mean, in all honesty, and this is objective. I know, considering that where I am and who I'm working with, seems subjective, but to see the overall transformation of someone who is focused solely on tech, it defined who they were because all they were was just a command line doing what needed to be doing without any human interaction. And then they started focusing on the development program, focusing on how to communicate, who to communicate to, how to shift, if you will, how they communicate and speak to certain people, and focus on what their interests are, focus on how to create an actual story about how this tech can transform their business, how they do business, the increased revenue, the increased market share, and speaking to a lot of things that make sense for their audience, and being able to build and strengthen their communication styles and ability to interact with humans instead of AI or computers. It was a wonderful thing to see, and it not only was it a quantitative shift, but it was a qualitative one as well. You saw strength in how they communicated, strength in their confidence, their ability to feel safe and feel secure and feel comfortable speaking with other humans, singularly or within a group, and being able to adjust and adapt to any situation, especially if we had these scenarios where people were disagreeing, and instead of them, for lack of a better term, freaking out or playing into that environment, they knew how to use their emotional intelligence to take lead of that conversation and provide a solution, both from a human standpoint as well as a transformative one. So to your point, Mike, it was awesome.
I love watching it happen.
Yeah.
Rashad, we'd love to work with you. That if you work with us, I can't wait till the day you tell me you're hired as an architect. And we love that because it happens almost every day for us.
Absolutely, we do. We're always looking to help change lives and trajectories and lifestyles, and even generational wealth is
Yes.
happening here at Go Cloud Careers. From Rose, will other kinds of engineers like electrical engineers be affected by or eliminated by AI?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have two sets of engineers. Engineers with communication skills, leadership skills, business skills, emotional intelligence, and sales skills. They're always going to be safe. And then we're going to have the people that only sit behind the calculator all day. I don't think any of those jobs are safe. Because whether it's Ohm's law or Kirchhoff's law or any of these other things, if we want to calculate signal attenuation over a wire, we can do this with artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence can do most of the engineering. It can't do the design, though. So that's kind of the big difference, the design versus the engineering. Design is human. Design is, what are the business problems, and what things can we do to solve them? Calculations can be done by tech. And the reality is, in many cases, they can be done better, faster, and cheaper than we can. AI will work 24 hours a day. AI doesn't ask for a raise. It doesn't go on strike. It doesn't complain its health insurance isn't good enough. It doesn't complain that it doesn't like its manager. It doesn't go to the competition. So it's very compelling for organizations, if you understand those challenges, to want to be there. But AI is not human. Alonzo may work for part of our organization, but Alonzo is my friend. If I need Alonzo, I'm going to pick up the phone and call him. That's not replaceable. It's just not. If I need Alonzo to do something and talk to somebody because I can't, he can do it. No machine can do it in the way Alonzo can. That's not replaceable. Those things, that humanity, can never be replaced. So my suggestion is to celebrate your humanity and focus on what makes you human. That's the one thing tech can never take away from us. And besides, I like having good friends and I like talking to people. You know what? People spend more money with people that they like. People will give better information to people that they like. Focus on your humanity. How about you, Alonzo?
Couldn't agree more. There's just certain things, automation. There's a lot of automated cars out on the road today. You can let them go if you want, and that's the capability of these cars, but it can't feel the road like a human can. It can't anticipate human nature when you know how to drive and you've had the experience of driving for a long time that AI cannot account for. So we will the moment that we give up our humanity for AI is the moment that we've lost, which is never going to happen because it's who we are as humans that drive us, and that's how AI has gotten here in the first place. So it's through curiosity, it's the desire to look into the future, to see how things can change, the hope, the vision. That's not ones and zeros, and that's why AI will never be able to replace us.
AI can never do it. I completely agree with you on that, Alonzo. Great points.
So
I believe. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Do I believe the role of a cloud security architect will be affected by AI? Do you believe, Mike?
Not at all. And here's the reason. Since the architect's not touching the technology, the architect is designing, presenting, and selling the technology. When you've got a $30 million security solution, somebody has to sell it. Somebody has to calculate the value of the organization's intellectual property. Somebody has to do the calculations of what does a security breach cost. Only when we know when the organization's assets are, what they need to protect, can we determine what's an appropriate security solution. Whether that be 2 sets of firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, hiring ex-Israeli commandos to provide security, armed or unarmed. That's all going to be dependent upon what you're protecting. If you're protecting a dignitary, you've got armed bodyguards, for example. And if you've got a data center where, let's say, the US government's secret things are, you're probably going to have Marines surrounding that entire data center for security. Likewise, if I have photos of my cat Cindy stored on my web server, and I've got thousands of photos of my Cindy, something like an AWS WAF might be good enough. And a shield, and an access control list, and a security group. Wouldn't be real enough for a big business, but it would be perfect for my cat Cindy's website. I got a cute cat Cindy, and we've got 3,000 photos of her in the last 2 years. I don't know how that happened. And in the process, we decided that maybe one day we'll start a photo website of Cindy because she's real cute. But that's neither here nor there now. So I think you're going to be totally safe as an architect. Totally safe. Because of the sales, the leadership, the communications, that role that I did for Alonzo when I acted as an architect, or when I acted as a nurse practitioner, which is another job I had 25 years ago. Still occasionally take care of some sick people as a hobby, because I still like taking care of people, whether it's building their careers or taking care of an illness or injury they have. It is what it is. Same career.
Yeah. From Mark, hey buddy, would you say that regardless of if one is an engineer role or not, the focusing 60% of your time and effort on non-technical skills will get you further than the other skills?
Mark, 100% absolutely yes. I'll give you some statistics. Focusing on a certification, and for people that don't know, Mark is one of the most technically competent network architects you'll ever meet in your entire life. He's a rock star in every way. Someone that I have some of the highest degree of respect for than you can possibly imagine. Individuals with business acumen skills on average earn $557,000 per year. A good CCIA, is a $100,000 a year job. 500,000, 100,000. Leadership skills, several $100,000 a year per year skill. Tech skill, no matter how good you are, 100, 150, 200 at peaks. Emotional intelligence, on average, raises average jobs, those that pay $60,000 a year, by $29,600 per year. In tech jobs, it could be $60,000 to $100,000 per year. Sales skills. Do you know how highly paid some tech salespeople are? I used to watch them get their quarterly commission checks and buy a Porsche in cash. There was a company called EMC that made storage. They used to only be able to give their sales reps $100,000 in a check. The sales reps at EMC about 15 to 20 years ago used to, at the end of the month, say, I got 2 checks, you got 1. How many checks did you get? Because some of them were earning $200,000 and $300,000 a month in those days. The CCIEs in those days, when we were scarce, were earning $200,000 a year. So again, the non-technical skills are worth more. So the key, Mark, is that all those other skills, your leadership skills, your business skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, that's the stuff that gets you promoted. In fact, early in my career, Mark, I made a mistake. I did a CCNP, a CCDP, a CCIE, a CISSP, a Riverstone Certified Network Professional. You named it. If it was a high-value professional or expert certification, I did it. You know what happened? I put myself into a corner where there was a management role that I really wanted. And I said to my manager that I wanted the role. I got all the other executives in the company to say yes, and my manager said, you're too good in your role, I can't afford to lose you. So I quit that job, went to Cisco, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But, that's the key. So I love having good and strong tech skills. And Mark, I recommend being deep with your tech. Not wide, but deep, like you are. But when it comes to really getting far, sadly, it's your non-technical skills that get you further than your technical skills. I wish it wasn't the case. But having said that, I can tell you it's easier to learn how to present than it is to pass the CCIE exam. A lot. I can tell you it's a lot easier to learn how to sell something than it is to figure out RSVP signaling for MPLS traffic engineering tunnels. I've done both, and let me tell you, it's a lot easier to sell. I can tell you it's a lot easier to take your client to dinner on your company Amex, maybe at Morton's, maybe get some Silver Oak wine, which I've always enjoyed, maybe get a couple of good steaks, maybe some filet Oscar, maybe have some Macallan 25 as a nice scotch as an after dinner drink, than it actually is to go in there at 3 o'clock in the morning and make a software image change on a router. So I've done both. I always have deep respect for people with deep technical skills, and I love having those people as part of my team. But when it comes to what's going to get you to your goals, it's not going to be your tech skills. Alonzo, you've watched people come in with tech that have left with $300,000 architect jobs.
Yeah.
What's it like watching somebody that comes in as a techie that gets $100,000 or $150,000 raise after we train them on business skills?
It's not only they're excited, they're so transformed, but they're not the person that they used to be, which is amazing. They were, and I've seen the trend, and it may not speak for everyone, but they were recluse, didn't want to speak, didn't know how to speak, and then being able to swing that pendulum over to this side of their social component, the ability to relate and communicate concepts, and being able to successfully sway someone's opinion and tell people about tech who knew nothing about it. It's something that we live for every day. It's just, you get a paycheck, and that's great. You get a great opportunity to speak to people, be able to do something. That's something that you can't put a price tag on, and be able to get that call, get that text, get that email, get that Slack message, and they say, I'm hired. Thank you so much. You changed my life. Priceless.
It's priceless. I completely agree with you. So
Tyrone,
we can go to the next one.
All right. And this is from Kevin. Is it okay to start as a cloud architect but have an interest towards security? The reason is I don't have the CISSP or any security certificates. Also, I am a Go Cloud student.
Kevin, I know who you are. I'm thrilled that you're here. If you want to be a cloud security architect, be a cloud security architect. It's not about your certifications. Here's the thing. No one cares other than the people selling you the certifications. I've spoken to thousands of hiring managers and I've asked them their perspective on certifications. And they say, Mike, I care if the person can do the job. I care if they've got a good attitude. I care if there's energy, enthusiasm, and passion. I care can they get along with others. But the competency piece is there. I'm going to tell you right now, I took the CISSP. It was 5 annoying days of my life to go pass that exam. Cisco brought in some people. It was a 5-day boot camp, and they scheduled it because in those days it was a paper exam that you had to go in on the weekend. It was like an 8-hour exam, and it was like $1,200 or something like that. And 5,000 of us took the class, and 5,000 of us passed like the CISSP or something like that in a couple of days. That exam has very little in regards to certification, and actually all certifications have very little in terms of actual architecture. The CISSP is my favorite on the security side only because it's more about writing the security policy and it's more about principles than hands-on since architects don't touch the tech. But Kevin, you want to be a cloud security architect, be a cloud security architect. I think it's great.
Go for it.
Be the best cloud security architect you can, Kevin. I mean, seriously, focus on it, live it, breathe it, sleep it. Tell your wife or your girlfriend about it. Tell your cat about the new next generation firewall. If you've got a golden retriever, tell your golden retriever about IDS IPS systems. Talk about security policy with anybody that will listen to you. Be great at it. Kevin, then everything will be Irie. So, I mean, that's really the key. And Kevin, I know you know what I mean by that, but that's the key. Just be great. It's so hard to hire someone that acts as an architect. I mean, people think it's competitive. It's not. It's so hard to find somebody that can do the job. Look, we had Daniel. I love Daniel. I wish he was my son. That's exactly how highly I think of him. And Daniel proves, and I've worked with many people like Daniel, but Daniel came to us without even a high school diploma. And JP Morgan Chase is darn lucky to have him as a cloud architect working in their company. They're incredibly lucky to have him. And that's the key. He was 20 years old, didn't finish high school, and they were still lucky to have him because he was that good. Now, I got to tell you, Daniel and I had plenty of funny conversations where he's like, Mike, this is too hard. And I said, go back to it and get me better. And, what I loved about Daniel, and one of the reasons I have so much respect, is he went back and he did it until he perfected it. Kevin, same thing. I know you're our student. I know exactly who you are. You're fantastic. You speak and present yourself really well. Learn the security. If it takes you 6 months longer to learn the security, guess what? We're not rushing you. All I care is that when you leave our organization, you've got a great job and you're happy. Take all the time you need. Might take you a little longer for a specialty position, but I'm grateful to work with you. How about you, Alonzo?
I'm looking forward to it. Always reach out. And if there are any students there, if there's anything that we can help you with, reach out to me on Slack. Give me an email. If I can be of any assistance, that's what we're here for. So if there are any questions, everyone seems to be so shy on this Tuesday.
Princess, you want to come back? I can put you on the camera.
Yeah, get Cindy. Okay, this is from Barara. I enjoyed Mike's explanation about difference between cloud architect, solutions architect, enterprise architect, etc. Can someone become a cloud architect before being a good solutions architect?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no point in, quite frankly, I'd rather, and we train everybody to be a cloud architect. Now, some of our people get what I call the intro level jobs, where they go to AWS and work as a solution architect, or they go to a consulting company and work as a solution architect. And many of our students get the more senior cloud architect roles. But yeah, with the right training, of course you can. Here's the thing with architect roles, and please join us on the How to Get Your First Architect Job webinar on Thursday. The key to remember is we don't touch the tech. We design it, present it, and sell the tech. So if you only learn the tech, you won't be an architect. And as long as you have the business acumen to understand your customers' business problems and know how to solve them, The leadership skills to build the right teams to help you with the design. The sales skills to convince your customer they need to buy what you're selling. And by the way, we get paid and our bonuses and commissions are based upon our sales. The right levels of emotional intelligence to have good customer service and smooth things over. And you have the right network, data center, and cloud skills. There is no company that wouldn't be willing to hire you because this position is so in demand and there's almost nobody out there that can do the job. So
I was just looking, Mike, at jobs on LinkedIn, and I look at it daily along with the average on Glassdoor confidence, and we're looking at a minimum of 900 to 1,100 cloud architect positions.
in which
being
city?
In everywhere. I mean, it's I look at every city, Houston, Atlanta, West Coast, East Coast, all over the world, and there's always a high demand everywhere. So don't worry about missing out. Don't worry about being too late. Join us, become our client. Let us help you go through the process. Take your time, invest in yourself. The jobs will be there for you because there's more jobs than there are people to fill them. So plan your future, transform your life. We're here to help.
Sounds good.
So are there any more questions? We are
Yeah, there's a lot that we haven't gotten to that I see in the
Yeah.
chat box.
Okay, great.
And Kenya put something in there which was interesting about customer service. So for example, what Kenya said was that so many customer-oriented service businesses are automated and don't publish contact information. They're not providing customer service.
No. Mm-mm.
Anybody that doesn't take their phone call ring is not providing customer service whatsoever. And they'll be that way. So, it's one thing to have AI help, but you've got to have a phone number. Now, let's go to the next one that I see that's over here, which is from Jason Hott. What do we think with staying with one provider but deploying in multiple regions? Here's the thing, Jason. It's still one network, which means if anything happens to the network, it doesn't matter how many regions, they all go down, and it's not that hard to take down an entire cloud. Even in today's outage, global systems were affected by just one region in the US. But if you believed by your provider that, 2 regions would give you 4 nines, and they're down for an hour, and many people's businesses were down for several hours, they lost 4 nines for the entire year, and that's assuming they don't have any internal or external service disruptions. So that doesn't work. But so, Justin, at the top of the plane, the cloud, we have something called the control plane, which is what orchestrates it. If that goes down, the entire cloud goes down. If the network goes down and they get a big network outage, the entire cloud goes down. If they get a substantial DDoS attack, which knocks out a significant part of the cloud, that can take down the entire cloud too. And that's why there's no business that's not on the cloud that doesn't use multiple service providers. So if, for example, I'm a bank and I'm not on the cloud and I've got a New York and a San Francisco office, I'm going to have a link on AT&T, for example, and a link on Verizon. I wouldn't ever put 2 links on Verizon. Now, if I have 2 links on Verizon across different cable patterns and a cable cuts one, not the others, I'm fine. But when the Verizon network goes down, and it will go down, I can promise you it's just a matter of when, if all your eggs are in one basket, it'll go down. A single cloud is a single point of failure. Availability zones, regions don't matter. Some systems stayed up today. Other systems were down. And some of that has to do with the fact that a lot of AWS services aren't local to your VPC. They could be anywhere, and if there's a networking issue, and according to AWS, what they acknowledged was they're having some networking issues. Let's face it. If it was a DDoS attack, it might be affecting their network. If somebody misconfigured a route on a router, it may have affected their network. Somebody could have put a static route and redistributed in. It could have affected their network. Somebody could have messed up their IGP signaling, whether it be OSPF or ISIS. Poof, that messed it up. Maybe they have RSVP signaling traffic engineering tunnels, which I'm sure they do. That has a little software bug that can take down pretty big parts of their network. So maybe they had an issue with their tag switching or label switching for their underlying MPLS infrastructure. Couple things. In the cloud, they can't do all the security you can do in your data center. Let's say I've got Alonzo and Tyrone who's in the back here right now on my network. I can make Alonzo's traffic get through if there's congestion and Tyrone's drop. You can't do that in the cloud. It's called quality of service. I can prioritize one over another. I can rate limit Alonzo in case his kid gets access to his computer and gets a worm. I can limit Alonzo's traffic not to go above a certain plan. I can't do any of these things on the cloud. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. There is no such high availability system on a single cloud, no matter what you do.
From John Daniel, been studying IAM a lot, realize how much I enjoy using Active Directory, I'm assuming, and feel like this could be my entry into being an IAM architect. It's more specific niche, but it's something I genuinely enjoy. Do you think IAM will continue to become its own space, especially considering the increased use of AI in the context of identity security?
Now, John, IAM has always been its own domain, separate from security, but under the security umbrella. I had a student, Isaac, really great guy, came through our program, worked as an IAM architect and got an even better IAM architect job. He's fantastic. And whenever I have IAM, I go to this guy and I ask him IAM questions. IAM as an architect is a big career. Wouldn't be one that would interest me, but I know a lot of people that do it. And as we start migrating towards zero trust environments, John, zero trust is more IAM based. I think you've got, as long as you stay on the architect side, a good career in that. I don't think it will ever be as big as security. And the reason is you typically think of the IAM people as systems administrators that are adding users to Active Directory or something like that. But a big enough organization will definitely require. Here we go. Now look at this little princess over here. But a giant organization will definitely, all right, you want to go downstairs.
Like, get down. I want to get down.
But a giant organization will definitely need IAM architects. You deal with any big bank, they have them. And I do think it's a great career.
From Purnell, is there such a thing as network as a service? And if so, would that decrease the need for network architects?
There is a such thing as networking as a service. And there's a lot of organizations that are involved in that. When you look at organizations like Aviatric, they're providing it. Versa Networks is providing something. John Chambers funded Nile Systems. And if John Chambers funded it, chances are it's probably going to be one of the best tech companies in the world. And there's many other networking as a service. Does it decrease the need for network architects? Well, yes and no. And I'll explain what I mean by the yes and the no. The reason people have migrated towards these networking as a service is they don't have to hire networking people, which are expensive. They can hire lower level people, which are cheaper. But, and here's the big but, when you hire networking as a service, you have no quality of service that you can do. So you can't prioritize some traffic over another. You lose control. You lose a substantial amount of the network security because you can't, on a shared network, offer as many things as you can on a private network. So the key is networking as a service is great for small businesses. But guess what? Small businesses don't have networking people for them anyway. Small businesses that have 3 locations don't need a lot of network engineers. Now, the kind of places where network architects like me work would be global banks. We're designing the systems for the internet service providers, the network as a service providers, big healthcare organizations, global retailers. And for us, networking as a service is probably not going to be good enough for them. They're going to need more. So what you have seen, Purnell, is a trend towards what I like to call commoditization of tech. In my data center, I can get a RAID card with 19 million IOPS for a low latency server. And the cloud, AWS is all proud about their 250,000 IOPS thing. 19 million, $250,000. Now, I could take 80 of the fastest EBS volumes and stick them in RAID 0, and another 80 EBS volumes and stick them in RAID 0, and spend more money per month on the cloud to try and get to the same level of performance that I can in the data center in 1 month, but use it in the data center for 5 years for the same price as 1 month on the cloud. Cheaper it would actually be in the data center for 1 month than it would for 5 years than it would be 1 month in the cloud. So the key is that super high performance stuff is still done in private data centers. But the commodity stuff, the web server stuff, well, but that's much cheaper in the cloud. Just put it in the cloud. And it's less to manage in the cloud. So yeah, there is that. So what it really means, Pernell, is those architects, those network architects, which are still needed, are going to spend more of their time on the business side of the architecture, making sure they're providing digital transformation services, than they actually would be on the technical side as of it. And that's the only difference. So it pays to focus more on the business piece.
From Kevin again, how can I leverage my marketing degree and health science degree to a hiring manager for a cloud architect role?
Okay, Kevin, I need you to think about this. Nobody cares about your degrees. Nobody cares about your certifications. It's meaningless to an employer. What the employer cares about are as follows. Can you do the job? Are you energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work? Will you bring out the best in others? Are you a good team player? And will you go above and beyond? And are your communication skills good? And do they like you?
Yeah.
Now, I also, Kevin, I'm going to give you a little insight. What does the hiring manager get paid on? The more you sell, the more the hiring manager is going to get paid, because they're judged by how much their team sells. You sell a lot, hiring manager gets promoted. You don't sell enough and the team doesn't sell enough, hiring manager is fired. So they're going to be very concerned about your ability to sell. Now, at the same time, they're going to be concerned about your ability to adapt. So, for example, companies have what's called the SPIF. Let's say a cloud provider has a new special firewall and they think it's a competitive advantage, or a new AI. They may give you extra commissions to go sell a certain thing. So they're going to know that you can learn quickly and you can adapt to something that's going to be there. A hiring manager is going to be judged on the output and the performance of their team. So if you show your emotional intelligence and willingness to work hard and go above and beyond, you're showing the hiring manager that you're going to contribute to the output of the team. If you're a good team player, you're going to show that you're an output to the team. Now, how about your writing skills, Kevin, or your presentation skills? If you presented a major conference, the hiring manager can tell his boss, Kevin, he's a young man on our team, a new architect, and he presented at this conference. Poof, you're worth a lot more. And Kevin, if you're so good that you can get what's called reference accounts, and I've gotten lots of reference accounts, meaning you work with a client and you help them so much, they're willing to write a document with you, which is like a testimonial, which shows how you help them. Again, they're going to be there. So they don't care at all about your degrees. But, and here's the key. The key is, and this is why I wanted to say this to you, if you learn something about marketing, about how to identify your customer and how to promote yourself and how to promote your product, that's going to be helpful. If in healthcare you learned how to learn, how to cite things more scientifically when you write a document, for example, or you learn how to better communicate with people, that'll work for you. But nobody cares about your degree.
No. I mean, look at it this way, and I say this a lot when it comes to a medical professional. If you have someone that you love very much, they need detailed, comprehensive, complex care. You have two doctors to choose from. One doesn't say anything. He or she's got certifications stacked to the ceiling. They just slide it across the table. They won't say anything. Versus someone, they don't have certification in front, the first in front of them, but they're going to talk about how they're going to diagnose, prognose, provide care, details, an expiration time, an explain. They explain the time, date, timeline of care, where they're going, how they're going to go, the prescriptions, dosage. If they don't, if they're not able to take this type of prescription, then they're going to try another type of care and set of prescriptive needed, and they expect this person, your loved one, to be able to show progression over a certain amount of time and provide that documentation to say that they've done this before in the future. Who are you going to go with? The person with the certs and the details on their list of how they were able to pass a test, or you're going to engage with this person who gave a bunch of solutions, a strategy, a timeline, options, and so forth on how to mitigate your loved one's risks. I'm going to go with that second person. So don't ever lean on your certifications. I myself have a MBA, bachelor's. I've got tons of other project management and cloud certifications. I don't talk about them. I don't show them. I don't dance around with them at all, because at the end of the day, it's about my ability to relate to the customer, to be able to provide business transformative needs, be able to showcase how I can help them, engage with them on a personal level, build trust, and be able to execute that trust and show and prove, if you will. They're going to go to me more so than someone with a bunch of certifications.
Exactly. Well put, Alonzo.
From Berara, I am getting convinced in your program. How is the success rate in Go Cloud Careers coaching?
You want to touch it first before I touch it, Alonzo?
We have a high 90% rate. We are really providing the success, and quite honestly, those who are not following through with the actual program may be the ones who haven't completed it, they haven't finished it, or whatever. But everyone who does exactly what we say, how we say it, they follow the program. They are, at the end of the day, we are going to get correspondence from them via phone call, text, Slack, or any other form of communication about how they were hired. So we do well. We have the testimonies to prove it. Mike, take it on over.
And here's the thing, Berara. When students come to our program, they stay in our program till they're hired. So as long as they do the work, there's no excuses for our students not to be hired.
No.
Because we stay with our students until they are hired. They are in our program. We're not like some boot camp that's just greedy and taking people's money. We do retrain people that have taken $35,000 boot camps and $10,000 boot camps all the time. And we're only 3 days pay for the average graduate, because we're not doing this for money. This is a mission. I'm retired for the most part from my main job. Actually, I did retire, and I saw what was out there in cloud training, and I just want to help people. And, it's almost every day that somebody gets hired at this point. And I've got a team of some of the best people in the world, people like Alonzo, people like Chris, and we're all over. Whether it's Tyrone over there in Cape Town, South Africa, or Chow over there in Dallas, or Eddie and Ansem over there in Cameroon, or Manuela in Colombia, or, those of us that are in Florida, we're everywhere. And for us, it's about raising the lives, raising the standard of living, and truly giving people a career they can be 100% proud of. We'd love to work with you, and I look forward to the day you would tell us that you're now a cloud architect.
Hey, Bob, how are you? This is actually Bob is one of our clients that we helped. He went through the program. He did what needed to be done, because we say the program works if you do. And he himself was able to use our strategy, increase the offer that he had by an extra, 20% or $20,000, or rather we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was able to do a whole lot of awesome things.
Yeah. So Robert was an exceptional student. He's a very fine individual. We've had the honor and privilege to work with Robert, and he's now an exceptional cloud security architect.
So when Robert, he says, when I think of IAM, I think of how I will integrate it, maybe with a CASB, such as Netscope, Trellix, Zscaler, or Palo Alto, and an IAM provider such as Okta or CyberArk. Think big picture.
I 100% agree with you there, Robert. Great, great, great advice. It's the big picture piece. So, we promised that we'd be getting done on time. We're close of it. So, we talked about some AI job losses, and AI is a future technology. We talked about cloud artificial intelligence and generative AI from Microsoft and generative AI from Google, tech careers of the future, and AI-proof jobs. I want to remind you of the following things. On Tuesday next week, we've got a free subnetting workshop. It'll be live, and I'll be teaching it. I've been teaching networking for so many decades at this point that I'll be able to simplify it and make it so simple that you all can understand. By the end of this, you're going to understand it. While we're at it, on Thursday this week, we have a webinar on how to get your first cloud architect job. We will cover literally the list of every possible thing you need to know to be a great architect to get hired, regardless of your level of experience. And next Thursday, I'm going to invite you to our Elite Architect webinar. This is my life's work put together along with the work of the Alonzo and Chris and business school professors, executives working at big tech companies that have helped contribute to this platform, architects working everywhere. And it's a combination of our Cloud Architect program, a business acumen leadership and executive communication program, a negotiation program, a branding and marketing program, and even interviews and interview coaching where you'll speak to tech executives and they'll interview you, or leadership coaches or executive coaches to help you with your interviews and to help you build your career. It's truly one of a kind, and I'm super excited to launch that. And we're going to have a webinar on that next Thursday. Thank you all for coming. Hope you had a great night. And I'm always thrilled to see you. Alonzo, you want to have any last words?
Absolutely. It's always good to answer your questions and have everyone here with us from all parts of the world. We're all united with that singular goal of becoming a cloud architect or being better as a technical professional. We always want to help. We always want to answer your questions. So please always tune in with us. Always remember we're here for you. We'd love to have you as a client. And without further ado, let's go Cloud Careers.
Let's go Cloud Careers, and let's get you all wonderful cloud architect jobs. Have a great night, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Have a good day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.